Welcome.
So, like, I can't go live at all yet on my TikTok, can I? You got to have, like, so many followers before they'll even let me do it one day.
You can go live on your phone. You just can't use the software.
I can't go live on my phone?
Not on TikTok until you have 1,000.
See, there you go. No, I guess not. I didn't think I could. I was thinking, though, with this new series out, I should have did it this weekend. I was thinking about making some Fallout videos.
Read it?
Yep.
Guess
Good
it's relevant.
evening, everybody. We're letting people come in. Got a very special show. If you're here, you might hear this once or twice as we continue to update. Do, 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 do. TikTok people, as you're coming in, let's see. We have a pretty cool show tonight. I am going to start with a mild rant, like I like to do. I'm like, what's that one comedian? Black.
Lewis Black.
Lewis Black.
Yeah, I like his video.
He's great, and I have nowhere near that delivery, but I feel rage sometimes, and I use this to kind of get it out there. So, yeah, whatever. Let's see. Hey, welcome everybody on TikTok. As you guys are coming in, let's see what do we got here. Hopefully you guys can hear us this time. That'd be awesome. Welcome. So yeah, this is going to be a little bit different. We have a special guest tonight, and I think everybody's going to enjoy that. And we're going to talk to that person here pretty soon. He's here in the green room, but we're going to bring him in just a minute. But first, we want to get a couple of things out of the way. One of those things, man, I got to get a haircut. Whew. Don't worry,
Do you have that one?
I'll get pretty again. So,
I'm going to check the mic real quick.
all right, it looks like we're doing a mic check here real quick.
Check one. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
here we are with things, guys. So last week, I know I kind of started a little bit of a rant about the business in general, the filmmaking industry, and the corruption that you can sometimes it can befall you. After I went home that night, last Monday, after I did this podcast and vented about that, I continued to get emails from that particular person, from that particular distribution company, for about 2 hours, just bitching and trying to tell me why what he was doing was not right. And I'm not going to waste a bunch of time on this, you guys, but what I do want to say is this. This goes out on YouTube Live as well, and that's why I do this, because there's a lot of people on TikTok that don't understand what we're, when I'm talking about the film industry. They either don't understand or they don't care, and that's totally fine. But this video then goes out on YouTube too, and a lot of people watch this for a long time, and so that's why I continue to discuss it. A lot of people like me, and I've been doing this for a very long time, but there's a lot of young people that are doing this, people that are in their late teens, early 20s, late 20s, and so on, that are new to this, and some of them are making their first or second movie that they've ever made. And this is a different kind of victimization, and it's important that we understand the potential. We understand what those things are, so that we can look for them, so we aren't taken advantage of. And it's very easy to do. And the reason why it's very easy to do, in my opinion, is this. Filmmakers, like musicians, like any artists, we are so passionate and we love what we do so much. All we want to do is create. And when we feel like somebody believes in us and wants to help us get to a new level, show us a new way of success, open doors for us, we are so happy and excited about that potential that sometimes I believe that there are people that lose their um, they're not thinking clearly anymore. They're so excited about the opportunity that they're not realizing that this opportunity could haunt them for years. And that is really what I'm this is how these people are taking advantage of filmmakers like us, and how we need to be aware of it so that we can avoid it if it's possible. I think that it happens in the big leagues too, you know? I think that big directors and big writers get ripped off all the time. But I think it's way more prevalent for the people that if you're making an independent film for $5,000 or $10,000, chances are you don't have access to an attorney. So you don't have anybody that's reading this paperwork and telling you how you are about to get ruined. So what I want you guys to be aware of is this. If you make a movie and someone tells you that they're not going to give you anything for that film, that's a problem. If somebody tells you that they want to keep the first $50,000 that your movie makes, you have to understand, unless you've got a major named actor in that movie, you're not going to, the chances of you seeing anything after that, unless that movie is extraordinarily good, is very, very small. And if you have no reputation as a filmmaker, and you put out your movie and you've made this movie for $5,000, I don't care how good you think it is, you need to be smart, because you can make money on this little movie, but you're not going to do it by having somebody promise you the world. So you have to be smart. Please. Hello, Ben. How are you, my friend? Ben Rollins, the great and talented actor, is watching live. Please make sure that you pay attention to what these people are doing, because what they will do is they promise you the world. I just had somebody promise me that they were going to take my movie to some massive global festival, but all they needed was for me to promise to let them have the first giant chunk of money. And when I asked,
all their expenses.
yeah, to pay all their expenses on this wonderful trip they were about to take on my movie's dime. So you guys just have to be aware of this. Please do not let yourself get taken, be ripped off, because you can make a movie for $5,000 and make $15,000 or $20,000, and you know what? That's a really good return. And it's going to take a little time. You can do this, and it might take you a year to make that money back, but you will, because you can have your movie on these streaming services that'll pay you really well. That's assuming that your movie is worth people watching, and that's another subject altogether. Don't be delusional. If your movie sucks, it's okay. Make another one. That's how you get better.
Yeah.
The first song people write is usually not very good.
That's how humans learn.
Exactly. So, think about writing the first time you write a letter, write words in cursive, then compare it to now. Whatever. You get my point. The point is, just be careful, guys. Don't let these people rip you off. We need to put these cockroaches to bed. Get them out of the industry so that we have a fighting chance again. That's what we really need to do. We need to work together. We need to network. We need to talk to each other. And if you've been ripped off, don't be ashamed. Just tell these people, spread the word, let them know who the creep is, so that our friends don't get burned too. And I know that I will. I should be telling you this company's name right now, but I'm going to be very careful for a little bit. But I will tell you this: if somebody hit me up straight on, like a message direct to me, I'll tell you who it is. If you want to know, I'll tell you who it is, because they need to be. But I'm not going to go on here and go on blast publicly right now. So anyway, we're going to move on, guys. Thank you for Sean McInich is here. Sean, say hi. Aaron is here tonight. As usual, these guys are great and help me get this show going. We're not going to do mailbag or anything like that tonight. Quite honestly, I'm very excited about a guest that we've got coming in a couple minutes. Some of you may know him. He's pretty famous. He's worked on a lot of big movies. I just talked to him a little bit ago, and he had actually been in wandering around the Disney studios, which is pretty incredible. So anyway, we've got that coming up. Hello, everybody, whoever's on TikTok. Let's see. I hate seeing it from this way, but whatever it is. It sounds like the sound is great too. So that's awesome. Movie reviews. There is a movie. I talked to Aaron. Aaron is the guy that, he his kids are grown. He goes to movies all the time. I really envy him. So he's usually the guy that gets to see the movies first, then comes in and tells us about them, and I trust his opinion. So that's why we do reviews with him. This week he did not get the opportunity to see a movie. He did a concert instead, and I too went to a concert this week. So I wanted to talk about a movie that it's been out for a long time, but it's something that means a great deal to me. A director that I'm completely inspired by. And I know that Sean's seen the film, and I think Aaron has, but if he hasn't, this will be fun for him too. And that movie is called Drive. The director, Nicholas Winding Refn. I have made the argument before, and I could be wrong, and maybe I am, but I feel that Nicholas Winding Refn, the director, is our kind of generation's Stanley Kubrick. And I know that there's going to be people that think that that's insanity, that's ridiculous, and whatever. But the reason why I say that is this. I don't think there's a director working today that is continuing to put stuff out like he does, where he's constantly challenging every aspect of the filmmaking process. Whether it's his choice of directors, his subject matter, his use of camera work, and his use of color. I really don't think that there's another director that I'm familiar with yet that is doing that, and sometimes is able to break into mainstream. Now, we all, if you're a Kubrick fan, you know that. Now we look back at his movies, and we know his body of work is something that most people can consider most of them masterpieces, and as a whole, it's exceptional. But what we probably forget sometimes is that a lot of his movies at the time they came out were kind of panned. And it's like it took us years sometimes before we could appreciate how important his movies were. 2001 was that way. Multiple movies. I think even Full Metal Jacket wasn't really like a hit in the beginning, which is one of his more popular films. Eyes Wide Shut is another one that people didn't know what to think about that movie. And so I say that because Nicholas Winding Refn is that guy too now. Drive is probably his most popular film. I don't know that it's my favorite, but it is amazing. And so I wanted to bring it up because some people have seen it, and if you haven't seen it in a long time, you've got to see it again, in my opinion. But more importantly, if you haven't seen it, you should. Because it truly is a visually stunning movie. Shot in LA. It's one of the most beautiful LA movies I've ever seen. It rivals, like, I don't know. It's a beautiful movie, a beautiful way to show LA and its kind of underbelly. Ryan Gosling, who's bigger now than he's ever been, is an incredible character. I think he says less lines in this movie than Leonardo DiCaprio says in The Revenant. Okay, which is not much. But we know all the time what's going on with him. We can see in his eyes and his mannerisms what he's about and how complex he is. The villains in this, what's his name? Is it Albert Brooks? What's his name? And then it's the two guys. They own that pizza joint.
Yeah.
I saw this movie on video.
Uh-huh.
I think about a year after it came out. I think, honestly, probably vicariously referenced by you through Sean.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed it.
I think, a lot of people say that, like, Bullet is one of the most awesome car chase scenes in any movie ever made. And it probably is. But I don't think I think that the one in Drive is it's incredible.
So,
It's so
Bryan
intense.
Cranston, Oscar Isaac, Albert Brooks, Christina Hendricks, and Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman, yes, Ron Perlman, who is always a great a-hole, and
Yeah.
he's great in this. Albert Brooks shaved his eyebrows for this movie because he didn't want people to be able to see his expression, the expressions of his face by reading his eyebrows. So he just wanted to be very like you couldn't really read him. And I thought that was a pretty clever little trick.
Yeah.
He pulled the Whoopi Goldberg,
Yeah.
shaved the eyebrows. But the story too. I mean, it's such a great, simple story. A guy falls in love, right? The woman's already married. That man needs his help, and he does it because he loves that guy's wife so much. I mean, what a crazy story. It's a great revenge story. He falls for this woman's child. He loves this little boy. And you can tell that, he's somebody that probably doesn't share much with anybody emotionally. But for whatever reason, he feels connected to this woman who is then, attached. And he's thrown into this weird world where, he's got to protect these people. And it's so good. So anyway, since we didn't have a review, I wanted to quickly throw that out before we bring in our guest.
Well, and that's the thing. The one thing about him as well. I mean, visually it's great, but he's telling the story. He's a great storyteller, and he tells visually.
Yes.
I mean, his stories are compelling. You get sucked in.
Well,
and they're not necessarily brand new, innovative things, like you said. But it sucks you in. It's good.
Drive is definitely something that I wouldn't call it. We're not reinventing the wheel,
right?
But we've also got this TV series, Too Old to Die Young, which is I've never seen anything like it.
Right.
And then he followed that up with The Copenhagen Cowboy, which is again even weirder, more beautiful, almost a fantasy in a way.
Stuff.
He does. So, and then, he was working on a remake of The Maniac Cop. Do you remember that from like the 80s? The old horror movie about the cop that,
right.
Yeah. So.
Well, and he did the one in Thailand, right?
Only God Forgives.
Only God.
Yep. So anyway, yeah, man, look at my hair. I'm going to get you fixed up because, but anyway, let's see. How's everybody doing on TikTok? Hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, so the person that we're bringing in tonight is a professional sound man from Hollywood. He's here because, as many of you know, we are shooting this week, and I have invited via TikTok. I'm going to be showing what we're shooting live, which I'm very excited about. You guys are going to be able to be there right there behind the scenes, watching the scenes. And then as, these things get edited, and then ultimately when the movie comes out, you'll be able to see it. It'll be almost as close to being behind the set or behind the scenes on the set as I think anyone's ever done, because you guys will actually be watching it live. So that's pretty remarkable. But because we're filming, our sound man here, he's in already. He's been here in town for a couple of days. This is the fourth time, I believe, that I've worked with this particular person. So you know that if I'm working with him that many times, I really trust him. He lives in Los Angeles, and we still continue to bring him out here because he's that good and he does such a great job. I'm excited to have him here. He's going to talk to you guys about his experience and what he does. And I think you're going to have a really good time getting to know a little bit about this person, not only about what he does, but what he's seen in the industry, because he's seen a lot. And so I want you guys to, if you would, please welcome Richard Chert. He'll be in here in just a second. We're going to grab him and bring him in here live right now, guys. Would you? All right. So we're going to get him and bring him in here. So, yes. Very, very, very exciting. All right, we're going to be bringing in adjusting the cameras here so we can get everybody on the camera. Hello, Richard. Welcome, welcome. We are live.
Thank you for having me. Spot I can see my computer.
All right. So, like I said, Richard and I have worked together on 4 projects. He was the sound man we first met on the movie When Jack Came Back, and he's been my sound guy on every project that I've done since. So I'm gonna let him. I'm gonna ask him a couple of questions and things like that. But he's got some information that he's gonna share about what he does, and we'll go from there and see how all this shakes out. Now this is live, so if you guys on either side want to ask any questions about anything or particularly sound or anything like that, please do that, and we will try to answer them. All right, Richard, take it away, my friend.
All I kept thinking was that if I come just one more time, I could join the 5 Timers Club.
Well, we're not done yet, my man.
You get a
One
jacket.
more.
You get a jacket. It's really nice jacket.
I want the all-you-can-eat buffet.
We'll take him to the Red Lobster if he gets one more movie. So, yep.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Please.
Okay, so I'm driving from Los Angeles to Iowa, and then I got to head off to New York. Okay, my first time cross-country trip. So I'm passing by Colorado, and I had a chance to go 10 miles to go see Aspen, Colorado. So I'm thinking, this is great. I'm never going to see it again. I'll never see that. I mean, how often do you get to go to Aspen, Colorado? I mean,
Yeah.
So I'm driving down there. Everything's cool, and I'm all excited about this. I'm all the millionaires, and I can't wait to see the ski slopes and all this stuff. And then that's when the check engine light came on my car. I'm like, oh, that ain't good.
Yeah. Right.
It's not good. So I get to town. I get a little panicky and everything. I'm getting to the nearest gas station. It's really like 4:30. So now I'm thinking I got to find a mechanic real fast. Luckily, I did. And when I got to the mechanic, he kind of, he ran that scanner, and he found that there was a real problem with the car. That my particular car, the spark plugs had never been changed. I've owned the car for a few years, and the previous owner didn't do it. So it's on me to change it out. So I'm thinking, well, I guess I'm going to be spending the night in Aspen. So I'm kind of bummed out because I'm happy to visit Aspen, but I'm not too crazy about necessarily, for that kind of circumstance.
Right.
So, by the way, the cheapest restaurant in Aspen is like $100 up. So if you want that $100 steak, you're in the right place for it. So basically, I found one place. It was like a pizza place, like 2 slices of pizza, and so it was like almost $20. So
Yeah.
this is as good as I'm going to eat in Aspen. So then, okay, fine. So I'm walking around, and I'm seeing a lot of art galleries. This is cool, except they're all closed. So next morning, I get my car fixed, and now I'm heading off to continue on my trip. So I stop by at Wendy's, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, art galleries. Suddenly the light bulb finally comes on. What about all that artwork that I brought from New York to Los Angeles that I didn't bother selling?
Uh-huh.
I couldn't be bothered to sell it. Now I'm bringing it back to New York. So I had all this artwork, stuff I made years ago. And there's all these galleries. So I'm thinking, let me hit them up. So I drive over there. Gallery number 1, it's by appointment only, they're closed. Gallery number 2, same thing. Gallery number 3, oh, we don't want to look at your artwork. Gallery number 4, well, the owner's not in. So I'm going through one gallery after the other. And so finally I hit up this one place. It was an artisan collective. And I charmed the lady. I came up to her and I said, you know what? I got a story to tell you. My car broke, and I have all this artwork, and I'm going to have a fire sale. So that's what I did. So one piece at a time, I'm laying it out, and she's like, oh, what? And so we worked out a deal. I sold almost all my pieces. In fact, I even brought a picture of some of them. So
Wow.
would you like to see it?
I would.
Sure.
I would. That's awesome.
So
I love this story. Like, I'm never fortunate enough for something cool like that to happen to me.
All right, so I'm going to show this to you. I don't know if your camera.
I can. You're here on camera,
Okay.
so I think you look pretty good.
Yeah, just hold it right up to that camera.
Oh, beautiful. There we go. So
Oh,
that was one I
wow.
did.
I love that.
This is like stencil art. So this was stuff that I was actually going to sell in Union Square in New York City, but the city is very onerous when it comes to setting up shop over there. So you have to go through all these processes. And so I thought, oh, let me put it over here. So this was done on canvas. I sold that one. And then this is like a Dorothy one. And
That's
then
amazing.
this was done in acrylic on a 12 by 12 canvas.
Well done.
Yeah.
How
And then
cool.
this one, this is
Oh,
I believe,
Hendrix?
Jimi Hendrix. Yeah.
Wow, did you sell that one?
Oh, yes.
I bet.
I sold that one pretty. Well, that link one sold to another collector, and then let me see. Oh, and then the last one here I sold was a Bob Marley piece.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Those are beautiful, man.
So
Richard?
yeah.
Oh, there's Herman Munster.
There's her. Well, that one sold to another collector. But
That's awesome.
let me give a shout out to Aspen Emporium. So if you want a Richard Tour original, go to Aspen Emporium. Emporium. How do we call it? In Aspen, Colorado, and it's right on Main Street. And the lady was so nice and everything, and she really, it was just a great day.
Wow,
Actually.
that's
awesome.
it is
That's really
awesome.
cool.
It's cool. Speaking of shouting out,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I forgot in the beginning of this that I do need to shout out B&B Market, our sponsor for the show today. I was just talking about them. My dad's here from California and loves that place. He loves. I've taken him in there before, and they take him back in the back, give him the tour, make him a sandwich. He gets to sit back there like a big timer, and he loves it. But they are our official sponsor of the program, and I'm grateful to have them because they are truly the entire family. The two brothers are the butchers. One of their wives and their daughter work the counter. And I'm proud to say that they're a local business that's been around since the early, almost 100 years, like 80 years or something like that. So I'm very proud to have them as a sponsor, and you will see their logos. But if you're ever in town, or for locals that are watching, make sure you go in there and get a sandwich and tell them I said hi. Go in there and get your prime rib for Christmas or
Get some
whatever.
steaks, take 'em home for dinner,
Exactly.
yeah.
So show them some love because they'll do anything they can to make you happy, and they're awesome. So anyway, back to the program. Rich just regaled us with an awesome story. I love it. It reminds me of that movie, The Pursuit of Happiness. It's like, oh, my car broke down. I'm in trouble. Oh, great. I'll sell my art. And then this guy does it. It's like, what an awesome story. It's like a movie. So anyway, Richard, I was telling him before you came in that you and I have worked on multiple projects together. You're a sound man and somebody that I really trust because I brought you back. I think this is number 4. And I wanted to bring you in and kind of let you tell people. I mean, I don't think people understand how critical good sound is to a movie. And Richard was kind enough to share a movie that he wrote and directed with me the other night. I got to see it in a private showing. And the sound, of course, was phenomenal, perfect. And so I'm hoping that if you don't mind, you talk a little bit about what you do and how important it is. And I'm just going to, let you go if that's okay.
I'll tell you what it is. If you watch a really good movie, try just watching it just with your eyes closed, or just try listening to the movie. And if you can still follow the story, and you can still feel the drama, and you can still feel all the things that makes that movie special to you, then you know that the sound was done right.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I'm on a mission tonight.
Okay.
Okay. That's it. You caught. Okay.
Perfect.
I want to help every producer get the best possible sound for their game. So how do I do that? Well, I've been working in Hollywood for about 14 years doing sound, and I've encountered just about every kind of problem you can encounter. So when you go on a new set, you're trying to avoid the same problems that you keep running into. So how do you solve that? Well, when I get a new client, the first thing I do is I send them to my website and I point them to an article on planning for the best location sound. So this way they can avoid the common pitfalls that they're going to run into, or they might run into, that can save a production.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
The first thing is like when you make a movie in Hollywood, like a big budget movie, they almost always don't use the actual recorded audio on set. So if they're making a Marvel movie, a Star Wars movie, something like that, almost always they re-record the entire movie on a sound stage, like an ADR stage, automatic
Interesting.
dialogue replacement.
Interesting.
Almost all of it.
I
Really?
didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Almost all of it. So when you watch a big budget movie like that, you're basically watching ADR in action.
Wow.
Interesting.
If you look at, let's say,
Can I
yeah.
start? Tell our audience who doesn't know what ADR is.
ADR is automatic dialogue replacement. So that means an actor will go into a sound studio specifically configured to record dialogue. So it's usually the floor is padded so they can jump up and down and there's no noise. They have microphones that are positioned in different, so there's one microphone that's usually positioned about 12 inches away, another one that's 24 inches away. And it's usually the same production microphone that was likely used on set. So this way, if they need to capture that bit of dialogue, and maybe that dialogue was captured like originally from a distance, and the director wants to use that little bit of dialogue to make it to match a wide shot, they'll use the microphone that's positioned a little bit far away. Close-up, they'll use another microphone that's just for close-ups.
Oh,
Interesting.
And the person will do a loop where they take the recorded, they'll take the motion picture, and they'll blow up just so you see the mouth very closely.
uh-huh.
And the actor will have a chance to practice to kind of match the lip matching. And hopefully with that, they do it a bunch of times to get it just right.
This is awesome because I've been doing this for what feels like a million years, and I've already learned like 2 or 3 things just tonight. So
Right.
that's awesome. Please keep going.
So that's the big Hollywood way of doing it. When you're doing it in the low budget way, basically you lock your actors in a closet, and that's how you get your AD.
Yeah, we do that.
And it's perfect. It works, and it's fine. So want to make sure that the sound matches. It's perfectly lip sync because obviously even the slightest thing it kind of ruins the illusion of it. But today there's software that can actually improve that a little bit. So even if it's not flawless, they can still match it with software.
Wow.
Different circumstances where sometimes the actor may not be available to do an ADR. So now with the rise of artificial intelligence, it's possible that if you have enough samples of that actor's audio, you can actually teach the AI to match that spoken stuff exactly right.
Crazy.
So we're getting there now. So
Wow. It's great.
so one day we'll all be out of business. So
Yeah.
That's what we're all afraid of.
But here's the thing. When you're shooting a movie, it's important for the director of photography to get everything right in camera. But when it's a low budget film, you want to make sure that it's also done right in the recorder as well, because it is hard to capture lightning in a bottle, so to speak. So you want to make sure you get it right the first time.
Sure.
It's not always possible to get perfect audio, but you want to get it as good as you can. And if something does need to be cleaned up a little bit, well, it's not going to be too much work to get it exactly right.
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to get to the good stuff now.
Great.
All right. Based on so many years of recording location sound, I'm going to tell you how to get the best possible sound on a set. Okay. The first thing that I've dealt with is if a producer is going to shoot in a commercial or an industrial location, they have to make sure that they can turn off the on-site air conditioning and heating systems. Very important. How many times you go on a set and the air conditioning is blasting, or sometimes you're shooting in a specific location and that's where it's blowing, or there's some kind of noise coming from the generator or something like that.
Right.
That's a big problem. Is it possible to reduce that noise in post-production? Yes, you can sample a piece of it and then use noise reduction software to kind of bring that down a little bit. Sure. But the problem with doing that is that it introduces artifacts into the actual dialogue. And if that's not done expertly, it sounds even worse than the way it had been recorded in the first place.
Yeah.
So you want to just try to get that part right.
Yeah.
And the way you do that, of course, is you negotiate with the building owner to make sure that you have a way of actually turning off the air conditioning and the heating and all that stuff.
Right.
Worse yet, let's say you're shooting in a bar or restaurant. A few years ago, we were shooting in a beautiful bar restaurant. It was just the perfect setting. A whole crowd of people were there. Everything all perfect. And then all the refrigeration from the soda machine and the beer taps and all this stuff was just going off one after the other. And I just have that that look for Home Alone, like, oh god.
Yeah.
The Captain Picard FaceTime, because I already know baseball, and I already know this is going to be a problem, and I have to be the one to kind of go to the director and say, we have a problem here, we're gonna. And then what makes it worse is even if the sound is consistent, the problem is as soon as the microphone is moved in another direction, Now you're capturing ambience from with a different tonality to it. So it's very hard to match one tonality with another. So the room tone is never going to be exactly the same.
Right.
So that's a thing where you got to shut everything down. So this way you have a neutrally quiet environment. So big problem. This is another thing I deal with, and this is one of those things. On some shoots, you have gasoline power generators to power up the lights.
Yes.
I was in one shoot, okay, we're atop a mountain. I'm talking about a real mountain. I'm talking, like donkeys were coming out. This like out of nowhere, I'm having like an In-N-Out burger and like.
There's a donkey carrying gear up the mountain. Thank God for the donkey.
Shrek was going to come out next. I'm like, what is it? What's up with that? So the gaffer thought it was a great idea to light up the set as if it was daytime, even though it's supposed to be set at night. So there were generators on every corner of the set, and there was no way to shut it down.
Right.
And that was just havoc on. So how do we solve that? I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Shoot it. We're going to just do it the best way we can. And then if we have maybe 15 minutes to wrap, I'm going to have all the actors do their wild lines. Just record it wild so that at least maybe some of that may be usable or hopefully will be usable with the generators off.
Right.
Okay.
Can you explain what wild is for those?
Wild audio is when you're recording dialogue that is basically an ad hoc ADR session, except you're doing it right on location, and you're hoping it's going to match up enough that it's usable.
Right.
Or if it's off-screen dialogue, then maybe you'll just record that because, again, it matches the ambience of the environment, so you can just get that, and you don't have to do that in an ADR studio.
Awesome.
On that particular shoot, I was there for like 2 nights, and towards the end of it, I don't know what it was, but me and the gaffer almost like we're about ready to have like a fist fight. And he kept saying that I was like walking into his lighting thing, and I'm like, but you have lighting in every possible direction. There's no way to you can't be anywhere without actually getting.
Those gaffers.
You just have to kind of.
You understand? I have a boom. I have to get close enough to them.
Yeah.
And then and the director of photography had this brilliant idea that I should put the boom over a campfire.
Oh.
That's a great idea. I'm going to just do that. Let me torch up my Sennheiser mic so we can get this audio.
Ding dong.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Another thing, you got to bring a copy of the shooting script to the sound department.
Okay.
That's the next item on the list. Okay. But I got to be honest with you. Sometimes I get projects that I've had some scripts that I kind of get it, and I'm just looking to see if there's any problems, like in terms of how much of this is being shot outside, how much of this is being shot inside, and all that stuff.
Right.
Sometimes I can be a little reluctant reading the script. I had one script where the opening header was exterior Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a problem script.
Yeah.
No.
I didn't get the spell check right. It's not inspiring too much confidence from the various departments.
Spell Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Whoa.
I'm like, oh, okay,
Trouble.
that's
Trouble.
yeah, that's going to be a problem. Let's say you're going to shoot inside. Okay, you got a nice interior shot. This is something for the set designer to try to use as many curtain drapes, rugs, upholstered furniture, because that helps dampen the room for reverberation. So the more stuff you have in there, and of course if you have people on set, people also act as a natural anti-reverberation, so that helps too. But generally, if you have, like, let's say a furniture blanket, that's a great time to lay it up on the floor. That's a great time to maybe drape it up somewhere, and that helps reduce a lot of noise.
Gosh dang, Richard. I learned
awesome.
something new. It's like, man, we need those art designers. Because
Yeah.
think of, like, when you have a low budget film, how many times have we shot in a room that had nothing in it?
Yeah.
And it echoes.
And it echoes.
It just
on and on.
echoes.
Well, and it's funny because as soon as he said that, I was like, well, we've got all of our packing blankets. We should be making those actors stand on those. You know,
We need stuff
it's
on the walls.
it's a lot easier to add,
Right.
crisp footstep sounds than it is to take away the echo.
That's right.
So.
That's
Oh, the
right.
furniture. Oh, that's another thing. Also, I shot something in my apartment in LA, and it was like a really old apartment. So you can't step anywhere on the floor without this horrible creaking sound, and it's like So the furniture blankets do help, at least to a point. So if you can do it, do it.
Well, we will be doing that trick this week.
Oh, yes. Another situation. Let's say that you scouted the perfect location. You know, you're going to shoot on a street corner. You're going to get your shot, and then we're going to move on all that stuff, right?
Right.
You go there, and it's absolutely quiet, perfect. It's nice and quiet, right? Until the day of the shoot that you actually get there, and that's when Joe down the block wants to fire up the leaf blower. There's a garbage truck down the road, the fire trucks that are just wailing on and all that stuff. So what are you going to do? You have a couple of options. One, you could pass out a few $100 bills and hopefully quiet the neighbors. That's if you have enough money for that, great. Or better yet, possibly have a backup location that hopefully is quiet. So if location 1 isn't going to work, then shoot in location 2 and so on. So you want to kind of plan that out.
This is all great advice.
If it's a Hollywood movie, it's not a problem. They're going to ADR it anyway. So,
Right.
in fact, it's almost redundant to have sound people on a Hollywood set because they're just standing there in the middle of a street thing, and the sound people already know that that's not going to be used anyway. Like they're not going to say it, but it's going to be ADR.
Right. Interesting. Cool. What else you got?
A couple more. Well, actually, I got a few more. I've committed this error. I've made this mistake. We're shooting a scene. We're in the middle of a take, and the cell phone goes off. You got to tell everybody to turn off, and that's an AD job. The AD should have it on his or her to-do list to remind everybody to turn off their cell phone. So there's no buzzing sounds. There's no anything.
Nothing.
Just quiet.
Yes.
Right.
A very important thing. And here's another thing. What about those home automated things like the Alexa or the Google something or whatever you actually
Hey,
come up
Google.
with? Yeah. So those things come off. So you say the wrong thing. Maybe who knows the character's name is.
I'm
Alexa.
sorry, I can't find that.
Yeah.
You
I never even thought about it. It's true though, because I have those
Well,
at my house.
yeah. Well, we've shot in plenty of places with them.
They always want to inject that.
Yep.
And those things always sound up at the worst possible time. And I mean, imagine you got an actor that's spending 20 minutes getting right into the scene, and they're in that moment, and they're doing it, and that's when something goes off like that.
It's cringy. Cringy to think about. Yep.
Yep.
Great advice.
Another one. Your refrigerator. The compressor comes on at the wrong time. Now, of course, you want to have your food in the refrigerator so that all the people can get their sodas and all the stuff, their craft services. But that's why they have a thing called an ice bucket. So you bring a cooler, and that's where you keep your drinks. You keep all your crafty stuff, and you keep that there. And you unplug your refrigerator, or you just turn it off if you can.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing.
Yeah. That one we've been pretty good about. But
My
yeah,
ice-
that's
my ice
important.
maker's always just.
Bars are the worst because there's so many coolers.
Oh, yeah.
And then
neon
finding them and
signs and-
unplugging them, and then you got to remember to plug them back in. And some of them you can't get to.
Not every owner is nice about that.
Not
either.
every
That's-
owner's nice. Yeah,
yeah.
they panic. Yeah, that's true.
So the producer has to negotiate that with the owner before
Yeah.
all you bring in your whole cast and crew to shoot.
Yeah.
So if and I can see that there are some indie filmmakers that are watching this, you guys, if you don't know this stuff already, and maybe you know some of it, but this is literally filmmaker gold, what you're hearing right now. So make sure you guys are taking notes on this stuff because I've been doing this for over 2 decades, and Richard's already told me 3 or 4 things that I had never even considered that I will now do. The blanket thing is brilliant. So anyway, please continue,
You came on a
Richard.
good night. What can I
Yeah,
tell you?
yeah.
It's like but this is stuff, and not because I'm so wise and whatever. It's just that you're on enough film sets. You do encounter these problems, and you're like, oh, that's why this. And then you start to say, wait a minute, this is a solvable problem. These are solvable things, so that when I do go on another production or whatever, I can just hand these off, and I can hand those notes off and say, you know what, this is what you got to do to get good sound. I'll give you another one, okay?
Yeah.
Keep pets away from the shoot.
Oh wow, that's a
Okay.
good idea.
Yeah.
Dogs are a huge distraction. Cats are a huge distraction. Birds are a major distraction.
Yes.
And guess what? Fish too. They got
Because-
pumps. They got blah, 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 blah. You
Yeah.
know, down the
Nice.
shoe, so
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
don't film if there's an aquarium unless it's part of the story. And even then, probably don't. I don't know I guess you just do ADR, huh?
Yeah.
You want to film in a nice place. It's got aquariums everywhere.
We've
your
done
sound
it.
is shot.
We just haven't had the best sound in those places.
If you're in a situation like that, maybe a sound blanket might solve that problem. If it's feasible, I don't know too much about aquariums if you should cover if you cover the top vents or not. But you gotta work it out so this way you don't have that problem. That's not to say that a little ambience is a bad thing. I mean, it shouldn't. When you're recording dialogue, it should not sound like you're actually recording in a studio per se. So there is a natural ambience to every place that you're shooting. So you want to make sure you get your wall sound, but also you're getting your room tone. So this way, if you got to match something up, you're not going to pull your hair out in post production.
Right.
So that's a big thing. Maybe another one. A lot of cameras make a lot of noise.
Yes.
The internal vents are designed, well, if it's configured properly, the internal vents come on when you're not shooting, and then when you're shooting, the internal vents are supposed to just go off, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, here's what happened in January. The camera was not the problem. It was the remote follow focus system that was the problem. And that was giving a huge high whirring pitch sound that was just wrecking one shot after the other. So the AC had to move to another room to get that to work.
Wow.
But let's say you're shooting outside, and this thing was like, it was like
Right.
it's like a mechanical opera. It was. But I'm going to show. In a couple of minutes, I'm going to show you how to solve that kind of problem because I had to figure something out to get that to work.
Right.
When you have a high frequency noise, there are ways of mitigating that in post production. I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
But if possible, make sure that thing is not venting. That make sure you can turn the fan off manually.
We have some lights that weirdly, when they run on battery, the fans don't come on. But if you plug them in, the fans do. And they're loud.
Yeah.
They're really loud.
So I'm going to tell you, this is a secret, okay? This is only known amongst the sound people, okay? Okay. Lavalier mics, for the most part, suck.
Yeah.
They really do. I don't care how expensive they are. The Electrosonics, and you got the Countryman mics. Okay. It's not that they're terrible, but the problem is that it's the physics of the microphone. It's a teeny kind of a microphone that's recording basically a bubble of space in front of the actor. Okay.
Right.
When you have a shotgun microphone, that's a professional like a Sennheiser. That's a shotgun microphone that's highly directional. So the size of that microphone are designed to mitigate ambience.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have that mic right on the actor where it needs to be, you're getting that nice, warm, beautiful tone, that nice sound that you expect to hear when you go to the movie theater. Okay. When it's a really good microphone, they almost never have to adjust the equalization or anything like that because usually the microphone just gets it right. The top of the line Sennheisers, they've been using that same design for 40 years. So you've been hearing that mic over and over again on one movie after another, that same microphone. So you know what good sound sounds like because you've been hearing it for so long.
May I ask you,
Yeah.
I think this is very important for filmmakers because it's something that I've done a lot of research on myself and I never really knew like what was a good one. And I know that you do have that one and I know you've got a mic that, like you said, has been used on TV and movies for forever. Do you mind sharing what that is?
My go-to mic is the Sennheiser MKH 416 microphone. It's a pricey piece of equipment for something that's been out for as long as it has, but I guess I just never had a reason to change it. It's just a good, solid microphone. Now, there are shorter microphones in that one, and there are longer microphones for that one. They use the longer ones if they shoot a sitcom, for example, where the mic really has to be at a distance, and it really needs to capture that audio a little bit differently on that kind of a set.
Right.
But for location shooting, the 416 is my go-to. That's not to say it's the only microphone that's good for this kind of work, but this is the one I use, and I'm very happy with it. So, no complaints.
Perfect. I want people to know that because, like I said, I have done research and tried to figure out good microphones to get and, what's too much, what's not enough, and I think that microphone goes for around $1,000 nowadays.
It's a grand.
And so it's expensive, but it's not terribly expensive. If you want something that Hollywood has trusted for the last 4 decades, then I think it's probably worth your investment. Obviously, there are cheaper microphones that you can get if you want to, but if you won't, you get what you pay for. Just keep that in mind, kids.
When I started out in Hollywood, I was a background actor, but I was very curious about the equipment that film crews use, and that was the microphone I kept seeing over and over again. I said, well, you know what? Why am I using a lesser microphone when I need to be on par with what they use? So I said, that's it. And, it's you buy it and you cry once over because it's such an expensive piece of hardware.
Right.
But once you have it, then you're all set. And even then, a good mixer will even have like 2 or 3, so as a backup or something like that. I just recently got a backup, a different one. It's a deity microphone that performs very similarly to the Sennheiser, but still the Sennheiser is the one that I always trust. So
Awesome.
all right, I'm going to show you. Oh, okay. This is a good. This is going to save people so much time and aggravation when you're shooting. Okay, let's say you're shooting a wide shot. Okay. And you have no way to get that boom microphone as close to the actor as you can because there's so much headspace above the frame. Okay, it happens all the time. When we were shooting that first movie, that was driving me crazy.
Yeah.
But there is a technique for that, and they call it shooting plates. So what is that? You shoot the scene wide. You get the microphone as close as you really can, knowing that the mic is in the shot. Get your shots, okay?
Yeah.
And then when you're done, just roll a few seconds of footage without the microphone in the frame. And then later you just composite the two together very quickly like
that's a
magic.
clever
So you just
trick.
crop the top,
That's how they do it.
and then
Bing!
God,
Bing!
that's brilliant.
It's
When did you
nice.
learn this?
House of Cards. They do that all the time.
Bing! There you go. Man, I'm thinking of that. Remember that
Unless
mansion?
you got clouds moving or something for some reason. Otherwise, that sounds.
We had the boom. I was up on the balcony, and you were doing that wide shot. Remember, it was at that mansion with the pool.
Yep. Yep.
We
That's
did that.
awesome,
When
Richard.
they do a Hollywood movie, I mean, every actor gets their own boom, so to speak. So in a show like that, there's like 2, 3 booms anyway.
Right.
And they're not. And yeah, I mean, do the actors all have their labs? Yes. But when
Why
you
is
want
that,
that
Richard?
nice sound,
Why did they do the lavs and the boom? I've always wondered.
okay, it's a backup in case something
Okay.
isn't right. Maybe
That
there's
makes
a little bit
sense.
of dialogue that maybe wasn't intelligible. Maybe there's some funny noise on it.
Okay. Okay.
And it's also the fact that a lot of people don't really understand how sound works, so they always insist on labs, even if it's not completely necessary.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're a sound guy, you want to justify your reason for being there. So it's fine. And don't get me wrong, labs have their place on a film set, but it's better on something like a reality show.
I will tell you
I
this:
gotcha.
since I've been working with Richard, he has always given me the option for both. And I will tell you this: I have used 98% of the time. I have used what's come from the microphone. There has been a couple of times where I was grateful that there was a lav involved,
Okay.
because it did save my butt for whatever reason.
Sure.
But he's absolutely right. The sound that comes from a good microphone
It's better.
is way better than anything that I've heard on a lav. So anyway, please continue.
All right. And of course, at the end of each scene, at the end of each day, whatever, you want to get your room tone. So that's very important. So this way, when you're cutting, there are post-production tools that can recreate room tone, or it can take a little snippet of room tone and then make it as long as you want. But generally, you want to get it when you're on set at the time. So this way,
That makes
you get
sense.
it right.
Sure.
Let's talk about post-production.
All right.
All right. As an editor, I do my own, when I do post sound, there are 2 ways to hear that audio. One is that you have really good speakers, you have like studio monitor speakers, or the other way is that you have really good headphones. If I'm doing dialogue editing, I really want to hear that dialogue as best as I can, so I tend to gravitate towards towards headphones. And also, it keeps me from getting evicted from my roommate.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I have to work in a space where I may need a little sound. So I do use headphones for that.
Right.
The off-the-shelf computer speakers that you get at Staples are not going to cut it
Right.
because it doesn't capture the full range. So you really want to hear that sound as good as you possibly can, so that when you make that decision in your editing, that you get the best possible, that you're hearing it the best possible way.
Right.
Because you gotta understand that one day that your project may be heard in a movie theater or in different kinds of environments. So you just want to make sure that if there's something up with that sound, that you'll know right away when you're cutting your movie.
Before you're embarrassed in a movie theater
Mhm.
with all your family and friends and fans.
Speaking of which, I've been to a lot of film festivals. And sometimes the audio just is either too loud or it's too booming or there's just or the equalization is so off. And even if I may understand why so and so is happening, and maybe, but the audience is also picking up that something isn't quite right or natural with that sound.
Right.
So you don't have to be an audio expert to know if it just doesn't sound right. I mean, as human beings, we're used to the sound of other people. We know what sound sounds like.
Well, that's what I was gonna just to add to what you're saying is that I feel like sound is one of those things that you don't really notice it when it's good. You notice it when it's not good. The average person, you'll notice it, but the average person, they just notice, well, I can't hear it, or that's too loud, or what's that sound, and it's off.
I'm going to tell you one more thing. Sometimes you have some directors of photography that don't appreciate the work that the sound people do. I've worked in all kinds of different crew positions, so I understand the needs of the camera department. I know the needs of obviously the sound department. I know the needs of other kinds of other departments relative to getting the whole project done.
Sure.
Okay. The sound department is the one department that does not work to the needs of the camera department. And so sometimes on some sets with some people, sometimes you do have some conflicts on a set because it's not really appreciated. I mean, the wardrobe department works essentially for the camera department to make sure the wardrobe is perfect and everything's just right. The makeup department works essentially for the camera department to make sure that visually, aesthetically, everything is right. The actors work for the camera department. Everything works for camera. Everything is for camera. And then here we come in as the sound people, and sometimes we're not afforded the same level of, I don't say respect, but sometimes the same level of appreciation that for the needs of the sound department to make sure that it's done right the first time, to get it right the first time, so that when you do cut this whole movie together, you're not pulling your hair out.
Right.
You're not going to be like, oh man, it's a beautiful looking shot, but the sound, something didn't go right, or there was. So there should be, before shooting, there should always be that preliminary meeting between the producer, the director, the camera department, and the sound department to make sure that all those needs are being met before you start shooting.
That's great advice, you guys.
I was on one set where it was not appreciated, and then I had to have a discussion with the director, and then the next day things got better. And the thing also is that as much as that the camera department has the right to say, hey, you know what, I need another take, that didn't come out, maybe we need another, maybe the focus wasn't perfect or whatever. The sound department should also have that same privilege to say, hey, you know what, just give me one more take on that. It just, something just wasn't quite right, or maybe we just need another one for whatever reason.
Sure. Yeah.
So that should be a part of the schedule and a part of the budget.
It's also important. I'm talking to filmmakers out there, directors, and those people that are calling the shots. What he said is very important to you guys. There's a reason why we have these people, professionals on our set to help us do these things, and we need to trust them. If they tell us that they need something, they're doing it for a reason, and we have to, even if the budget's tight or the schedule's tight. It's okay. You've got to trust these people. They know what they're doing, and if they need it, there's a reason. So remember to trust the people that you've hired. That's very important.
It's better to cry once and get somebody that is qualified to do the work than to try to get Uncle Bob, who has like a Zoom,
Yeah.
a Zoom handy recorder to come in and some mic from
Yeah,
Uncle
absolutely.
Bob's not going to work as hard.
Uncle Bob is not going to know what he's doing.
Right.
It's like. There was one short film that I had to do some work on it in post-production. Whoever recorded the sound in that short film completely botched up. It was all the sound was peaking, and you can't fix peaked sound. It just isn't going to happen.
Right.
So they asked what my quote was to fix the audio, and I said, we're going to have to do an ADR, and it's going to cost so-and-so money to fix it. So they're like, okay, all right, we'll think about it. 2 months later, it's like, okay, we're going to hire you to fix our problem audio. Oh, and here's the ADR audio. We did it ourselves.
Oh no!
And all the audio that was ADR was all faded. So that means you try to increase the volume, They're also increasing the noise floor that goes
Right.
with it.
Uh,
So it was completely ruined. I'm like,
So they tried to come up
I
with
can't
some
fix
kind of
this.
they tried to solve a problem. They tried to go cheap the first time, they went cheap the second time. The third time, now they gotta come to me, and they could have just hired me from the get-go to do the sound, and it would have been done right. The
right.
first time, and that would have been the end of it.
Oh man.
So imagine how inconvenient it is to have to bring back all these actors now to do a second ADR session. They couldn't even get all the actors back. So some of that audio did peak, and I'm trying to fix it as best I can, but you can only do so much. So the audio that I was able to re-record, at least it kind of fixed most of it.
Right.
But the point is that it's never as good as it could have been if they had just gotten a sound professional to do it right the first time.
They think it's easy or something. I don't know what it is.
It looks easy. I mean,
Yeah.
you just see the guy pulling up a boom pole, and that's
Right.
the end of it. But
Right.
It's sound is much more complicated than that.
Yes.
All right, guys. So we've got just a couple minutes here. We're about to wrap up. I'm going to let Richard finish his thoughts, and then thank you so much for hanging out with us. And we'll finish up with Richard. We'll get this handled. So
I'll put it to you this way: no matter how good you think you are at something, there's always somebody that can do it a little bit better. So if you think you can fix a toilet seat really good, I guarantee you there's somebody that can do it even better and faster. And if you're actually now taking your life savings, you're taking a huge sum of money to invest in a motion picture, whether it's a short film or a longer film or whatever it is, you want to make sure you get the best people that you can to get it done right the first time.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's why Richard keeps coming back.
That's right.
Well, at least that's why he's invited. Because he's invited because he's done such a great job working on every project that I've had him. And I edit my own movies. And like he said, I wear headphones and I listen to what he's done. And I feel bad for the stuff that I put out before, after I've worked with Richard. So
Well, there's an ulterior motive why I come out here, because the Hy-Vee supermarket has the best Chinese food.
Des Moines got good food, man.
They got it right.
We've got good restaurants here. Even our
You
grocery
heard it
stores
here
have good
first.
restaurants.
everybody
Our
loves the Hy-Vee
convenience stores
Chinese
have
food.
Just so you know,
Yeah.
your impact is felt beyond where you might know it is. Sean and I work together in our day jobs and we do training videos. So when Sean and I first started doing these things, we were working with these little $20
Oh my God.
USB microphones. And then after, it must have been about the time that you first made a movie with Thor and Sean was there, he was like, we gotta change this. and we went to our executive director. We
got
talked
some
to him
real
about
minds.
some really good quality Rode microphones. And so now Sean has this giant, good, like proper, it's not your $1,000
For singing.
Sennheiser.
It's not good for singing, though.
It's terrible for singing. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not your $1,000 Sennheiser. It is about a $400
It's a
Rode.
podcaster.
That's how you know a good road
But
or a
it
good
changed
TV.
night and day. Night and day. The training videos, and I mean, we also then were using it in like Zoom calls, and everybody's like, "Why does your voice sound like butter?"
You guys sound like professionals. And Aaron's like, we are.
Thanks for paying attention. No, this is your knock-on effect through Sean.
That's right.
To our little nonprofit homeless services world.
Oh.
Here we are with the best sound in the business.
So I want to
Game.
thank Richard for being here. I mean, obviously he's in town to be part of this project that we're doing this week, but I'm grateful. I feel like he's become a friend of mine. I'm really grateful that he takes my calls when I've got a project, and I can honestly say that I learned some things tonight based on this information. So this is gold, you guys. Indie filmmakers, pay attention to what this is and share it so that other people can learn, because this is really good stuff. Thank you, Richard, for
Thank
being
you
here,
for-
my
thank you
man.
so
I
much.
really appreciate you. Aaron, you're awesome. Thanks for being here and setting everything up. Sean, it's always great to have you. I love your insight, and it was great to have you here too. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great night. We'll see you soon.